My name is Brad Rayburn. I'm with Fidelity Investments. I've led the brokerage sales team there for about 13 years. And one of my favorite things is I get to come out and speak to high school students and educators alike around the importance of financial literacy. I do a lot of work with the Treasurer's office around the stock market game, whatever it's called now. I know it used to be called the stock market. It's a challenge, I guess, now. But one of the things I really enjoy about this is the work that you're putting in behalf of the kids. I have two educators in my life that have really had a very big impact on me. Unfortunately, they both passed away, and I didn't get to share my thanks with them beforehand, but the first one was my consumer education teacher. Yeah, I'm dating myself there. In 1982. His name was Phil Simmons. He wore brown polyester pants, a mint green short sleeve shirt, and a brown polyester tie every day to school. I swear he was Batman. Just the same outfit every day. And he gave us a newspaper one day and said, okay, pick 3 stocks. And I'm like, well, how do we do that? You know, just pick 3 stocks and figure it out. Okay, so I picked a company called Nike, a company called RBOK, Reebok at the time, which was new, and then I made a mistake and chose a preferred stock, Hilton. Let's just say Hilton didn't do anything for me because I didn't get the dividend. It paid a week after the contest ended, and it didn't move at all. Reebok and Nike both did very well, especially when, and again, dating myself, the All-Star game. D. Brown's slam dunk contest, he bends down and starts pumping up his shoes, and Reebok went through the roof that week because everybody wanted the new pumps. So, but he got me excited about the stock market, and that really carried through until I went to a Spokane Falls Community College where Marianne Sanger was my business teacher there. And we had to do a deeper dive into equities and companies that we like, and really stoke the fires there. Eventually graduated, moved down to Utah, graduated from University of Utah, and started working at Fidelity. I've been there now for 25 years. I did take a break. I worked with Utah Retirement Systems for a year. Got to know your guys' retirement plans very well, and really enjoyed that time. Then moved over to start a division at Wells Fargo called Wells Trade. We won't talk about that. And after 3 years of there, got to go back to Fidelity. So I've been with Fidelity a total of 25 years, and it's been a great company. We are very big on financial literacy. I get to go around the country and speak as my second job at Fidelity to students and educators alike. I'll be at the National FBLA conference. If anybody's there in Orlando, please stop by the booth, say hi. But we feel very strongly that the kids today need to be taught to watch out for things. There's too many incidents. We work with the Division of Securities, and the old leaders, Keith and Tom and I, were all very good friends, and they would always give me the fraud cases that would come up. And it was because it was too good to be true, and the people were desperate to get the easy trip through. One lady, in fact, had a phone call from a guy saying, if you bring $250,000 out to the airport, we will give you that amount in gold, but the helicopter's coming in, you need to be there in an hour. And don't say anything. And she said, well, I'm going to call my son. Son called the head of the securities division. He called the FBI, and they were waiting at the airport where she was supposed to meet them. And if you've ever been to the stock market luncheon, those are funded by the fines and penalties that people pay. And we just thank that person for paying for our luncheon that year, because he ended up serving some serious time for the fraud that he committed against the elders in our community. So today I want to talk a little bit about saving, spending, and investing. Saving's really boring, isn't it? How much are you getting on your savings account right now?
It's pretty good.
A little more now.
More now than you were.
But it's a trade-off, right? Like, the interest rates are just terrible, so.
Yeah. If you want to, you get a great savings account, but if you want to borrow to buy a house, you're going to be paying even more because you're up in the 7% range. So it's kind of a, you're in trouble either way. But what I like to show is variable versus fixed expenses. Now, I ask kids, what are variable expenses? And they look at me, and they're just like, food. So, okay, yeah, very variable. And they talk about the various things, and I say, what are fixed expenses? And my favorite answer was, gasoline. I said, what world are we living in here? Because I didn't know if gasoline was a fixed expense. And they just, well, I can only put $10 in at a time. Like, okay, so you've got a fixed amount you can spend, but you're not getting the same gas every time. But we talk about, what it is in reality, fixed versus variable expenses. And it's really fun to see their eyes just kind of light up going, oh, that's what my parents pay for? Streaming services, $9.99. That's if you're lucky. And again, gas, you can see it varies, and it's a lot higher than that right now. This was created 5 years ago. Now, but compared to what it was 5 years ago, it's considerably different. So I like to show them what happens if you're just saving $20 a month. You start at $15, $20 a month at then interest rates of 0.01%. You're going to have $12,000. You start at 25, you have $9,600, and then if you go to 35, you're only going to have $7,200.
What interest rate are you assuming?
Basically 0.01. It's basically a zero sum scenario. And the kids are like, wait, what? Really? I'm like, well, realistically, that's what you're looking at. But if you were to invest that money and get a difference at a 7% rate of return annually, that's the kind of numbers that you're seeing right there. And they kind of perk up when they see $109,000. And it is pretty nice when you're only saving $20 a month and you get that type of return. So savings is what helps you accomplish things. So as we look at this young example here of a freshman that wants to participate in various activities, i.e. get a laptop, have an emergency fund because he hopes to have a car someday so he can buy new tires. And he also wants to go to senior week because his parents said they'll pay 80% if you pay 20%. So he thinks, well, I should be able to do this no problem, right? I've got a job, making good money. I won't take my shot at California making $20 an hour, but that's in there all the time with the kids. And we look at it, we say, okay, you only have 3 months now to save because you didn't save all through your freshman, sophomore, junior years. And now you're up against this wall. And I tell them, I say, okay, your job is now paying you $540 a month. And I talk about their monthly bus pass, their gym memberships, their phone call, or phone plan contribution. 35 is, again, it's a dated number, but still they're paying and contributing. And those are all fixed expenses. But then I like to talk about variable expenses. And I'll usually pick out, I don't pick on, but I'll pick out the kid that has the Starbucks coffee in front of them. I'll say, how much did you spend on that this morning? $6. How many times a week do you get that? Every day. So $30 a week? Yeah, that's about right. I said, oh, okay, morning beverage, $80 a month is what we're looking at there. You're spending 30 a week, so 60, 90, 120, so you're off a little bit there. And their eyes just kind of like, oh, I didn't realize I was spending that much. It's really a matter of awareness. Meals, clothing, personal care, entertainment, that's all part of the decision, but we got to figure out, okay, how much am I going to need to save now to get my $650? Because right now I only have $79 a month extra. Where do we save on the rest? And it makes the kids think. They're just like, oh my gosh, you're right, I should save here, I can save there. And talk about saving actually helps you control the money rather than the money controlling you. And that's one of the big things about a budget. I ask the kids, I'm like, do you like to be controlled, told what to do? And of course the answer is, no, I do not. And I say, well, if you don't have a budget and you just spend your money, and you need to do something at the end of the month, who's telling you what to do? And I'm like, oh, my money's telling me what I can and can't do. I said, yeah. So you want to tell it what to do, and you can do that through a budget. And we've got some great tools I'll show you here at the end of the class. This is one of those tools. It's the Youth app. Fidelity Youth app has different learning modules within it where they can start with $1. Believe it or not, the interest that they make on that dollar is 5%. That's what the savings rate is. And they have a debit card attached to it if they want. They can spend according to that. There are no ATM fees, so if they're in Italy with the family and they want to get some lira, pop it in, pop it out, get some euros, pop it in, pop it out, whatever you want to do. If it says there will be an $8 charge, well, guess what? The money will be put back in the next day for the $8. And they can trade stock. They can manage all of their budget through here. It's a great little tool. The greatest thing about it, though, is it's their account, but the parents have to have supervision on it.
So what's the minimum age on that account?
14.
14.
Yep. So the parent is there to provide guidance, but they're not the ones that are going to be able to say, you can't do this, you can't do that. My daughter was in the pilot program of this, and it was when Tesla was going through the roof. And she had a whopping $28 in the account. And she goes, I want to buy Tesla. And I said, well, it's kind of expensive, but you could buy a 0.05 of a share because you can buy fractional shares of the stock within the account. And she goes, oh, no, I want to go to Subway tomorrow, so okay, we won't do that. Well, put off today for tomorrow. She actually chose wisely because the stock went down after that. But you also can earn cash rewards through the learning that you go through on here. As every lesson you complete, the kid will get $1 or $2 until they've completed all the lessons. The maximum that they will get from the lessons will be $50. And it's their money to do with as they please. They can come and go, do whatever they want.
Is this available online or
Yeah.
app only?
You can do it online. You can get the App Store, or Apple, or I'm an Android guy. You go to the Google Play Store, Fidelity Youth app, and you can download it. They can actually go online, open the account, and then the two will trigger each other into effect. And then they'll be able to move money in and out. Venmo available, PayPal, whatever they want to use to move money to friends, that's available through this app as well.
And how long can they have the account?
My daughter still has it. She's 19 now, and it goes in perpetuity. It just changes from a youth account to an individual
When does the
account.
change?
18 years old.
18.
Yeah. Yeah, she was loving, well, I don't know if she was loving it. I wasn't, but age 18, I disappeared from being able to view what she was doing in her account. So it's all good. She's happy about it, but it is a great little tool. I've had, Shauna Barfus was telling me her daughter went through a financial literacy class and said it was good, but then she jumped into the app and she goes, I learned so much from the app. It was so nice to have that to augment what I learned in my financial literacy class. And she was a big fan of it. So it is a great little tool to have. Spending, here we go. Spend what you have. I saw there was a Saturday Night Live skit where Steve Martin says, it's a novel concept. You only spend what you make. You don't spend other people's money. And it's a fun little clip to put in there, but it really is a reality that we have to face, is that there's too much credit card debt out there and people are drowning in it. So what I like to do is point out, yeah, you may be able to buy something with your credit card, but you're going to pay back a lot more for that item that you bought that you could have waited 2 months for with the savings and bought it with cash instead of the credit card. And this unfortunately has also become a huge thing, is the travel points. People say, oh, I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to get all these points. Well, how are you going to pay for your vacation? And they're just like, well, with my credit card. Okay, how are you going to pay your credit card back? I'll have points. You're not listening to what I'm saying. So it's a circular thing that it's a lot of fun to talk to. But there are some great ones, cash back, and then charitable donations.
Well,
Yeah.
the federal government's looking at actually discontinuing points on credit cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they feel that that's why people spend so much.
It is. It's crazy.
I don't know if that's the reason why they spend so
No,
much.
it's an
They just spend
incentive.
so
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
they just spend too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a good point that they're looking to do that. You know.
I view it as you have to pay it off, but I'm like, I want some perks if I'm going to spend money. I know I'm going to pay it off, you know, but I'm like, we get so many free flights, like just because it's just part of our budget, you know.
That's the one thing I like about Delta card is it's Amex. Amex, you have to pay it off at the end of the month, so it's a good scenario there.
I just like cash back. I don't
Yeah, I
bother
like
with
the cash
point,
back
because
too.
then you're like, oh, I got this choice, and you go on vacation, and it doesn't only cost you the airfare. But I mean, if you travel a lot, it's great. I don't.
So we also go over the FICO score, help them understand what their credit scores can do and can't do for them. And I was sharing it with just a little bit ago, but when I spoke at the Atlanta conference last year, I asked asked anybody in the crowd how many of you have financed a car, and one kid raised his hand. And I said, wonderful, what did you pay for interest? And he goes, well, and I started to go into this. You know, you got a couple young people here, one with a 790, one with a 655. And then I show what happens based on their scores, how much the difference is in their car payments. Unfortunately for the young man that raised his hand, 17.5% interest. His parents, he said, I did it on my own, I didn't ask my parents for help. Whoa. I was proud of him for stepping up and doing it on his own, and who knows if his parents could have helped him, but it was a great example of trying to control your credit score and build some kind of credit before you go out and make that first big purchase. Because he said, yeah, I think mine was like in the 4s, so that's why I was paying so much. I said, how is it now? He goes, oh, it's a lot better now. I said, you thought about refinancing? I got to wait 10 months before I can refinance. I said, I would suggest you do that, because every little bit will put more money in your pocket. So, you know, this is really, and this is where I showed him the difference as far as how much you pay because your credit score isn't what it should be. When you miss that one credit card payment, or you miss your phone payment, or something of those natures that show negatively on your card, or when you have too much debt compared to your income ratio, that's where it'll impact your score as well. I said, who would like to have an extra, basically $5,000, $4,500 in their pocket at the end of the car? Because you'd need that to repair the car if you're driving a car like mine. But, that's what you're looking at. Credits versus debit cards, we talk a lot about that. Like I said, the youth account has a debit card attached to it. Yes?
Just a quick update. So the youth account, they've updated so you can actually start at 13. So
Oh, 13 now.
You can actually start at 13 versus 14. That hasn't always been.
Thank you. Yeah, that is new, because that'll be good to have. So we explained the difference between credit and debit. Debit is your money. Credit is other people's money that you're going to pay interest on. Just give them some basic understanding of how those work. Spending your own money versus other people's money is usually a little bit more cost effective in the long run. Again, back to the youth app. Believe it or not, we give them 5 cents every time they use their debit card. If they go to the store and buy a soda, we'll give them 5 cents back. So it's really funny when I see accounts come through and I see all these 5 cent reimbursements. I was like, wow, someone's definitely using their card for something. I don't know, but there's a lot of debit card usage. But again, it's a matter of getting them in the habit of spending their own money versus spending other people's money through the credit card. This is my favorite part. I've kind of been tied to the brokerage world for so long. Investing's fun. And does anybody do the stock market challenge from the Treasurer's office? Have you heard of it? They've made some changes, just to let you know. They're trying to make it more of a long-term type scenario because really the stock market game was controlled gambling. That's what it came down to. But the challenge, the Treasurer's definitely made some changes there to make it more of an investing scenario versus then a gambling scenario. And it's a lot of fun when I get to go into the classrooms and we split them into teams. They start bringing up the website and I ask them, I said, come up with a stock and why should I buy it? And it ranges from buying Disney versus buying Nike versus buying, well, right now, what's the favorite stock? Anybody know? NVIDIA. I always tell them, I said, there's 3 stocks you can't buy right now: Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. They're like, no, that's not fair. Like, you can buy them in your game, but I try to have them stretch their mind a little bit about what else could be impacting the markets. What else is out there that we could look at right now as far as an industry that might benefit with what's going on in the economy right now? You didn't know you were going to have a quiz today, did you? What's that?
Solar.
Solar. How's that working?
Depends on the company.
Yeah, it really does. That could be a very good one to look at. There could be some that are not so good to look at. The fun one I like to bring up, though, that the kids always talk about is Disney. And I ask why. And they're like, well, because they have the parks. And I said, oh, and they've raised prices there, and how many people are going again? Well, they have the movies. How many people are going to the movies again? Well, they have Disney Plus. Okay, yeah, they do have good streaming service. I said, what's the 4-letter word hanging around Disney's neck right now? Does anybody know what it is?
Yeah.
That's the word. Thank you. Winner. It's called ESPN. Biggest drag on Disney stock that you'll ever find. They're killing that stock. And then I throw a chart up of Disney, and it just shows the constant decline over the last 4 years. And it's really a sad thing to see.
You know, they're making crappy movies.
Well, that too, yeah, making bad movies. Yeah, ever since they stopped doing the real Avengers stuff. It was. Originally it was. And then their talent got, well, I think the other streaming services definitely hurt them. Yeah. And they were overpaying their talent. You see that 2/3 of their talent from 5 years ago are gone because they just couldn't afford them anymore. I think Stephen A. Smith is taking most of the money. But that's just me. But the investing part really comes down to, what do you think of when you hear the word investing? Stock market?
Buying assets, buying ownership.
Buying ownership, yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the stock market. It could be real estate. It could be gold. It could be silver. It could be crypto. You've got all of these things out here, different assets that you can buy that would technically be investing. So and it's really funny when I've had one or two kids in each class, scary. So why? And they'll share stories of their parents losing money. I mean, the biggest reason I also got into investing is my uncle worked for 28 years for Alcoa. And he would never contribute to the 401k because he was afraid the man was going to take his money. He missed out on 28 years of growth of Alcoa stock with a 3% match. Retired, didn't retire, he was forced into retirement because they closed down the plant. And he ended up driving a garbage truck for 3 years until he had too many accidents and couldn't drive that anymore. So he's living off of Social Security now. That's another reason why I feel financial literacy is so important, not only for the kids, but for everybody that I talk to.
They need to know that Social Security is not a livable income.
It isn't. It really isn't.
Well, it probably won't even be around for a lot of
Something
it.
will be
Or they'll
around,
have to be
otherwise they'll just-
75.
Yeah.
they'll still have to bail people out. I mean,
Yeah.
If they don't have Social Security, then they're just gonna have to give welfare and Medicaid
Yeah.
and those kinds of things. So there'll be something, but
Yeah.
it's still not gonna be enough.
No, it's not. It's clearly not. And I hope all of you as educators are meeting with your Utah retirements person to make sure your plan is up to snuff, making sure you're saving enough for your retirement, because I do know they offer that free counseling service. And that was some of my most favorite times when I worked for them, is when somebody got to sit down with me and I said, why are you still working? I had one woman down in Castledale. She'd been working for the county for 49 years. I said, you started when you were 18? And she goes, yeah, how'd you know? And so I did the math. And I said, why are you still working? Well, I have nothing else to do. I said, you and I have spoken many times about your grandkids and your kids and how you always want to go be with them and stuff. And the county commissioner was next door. don't you do it, Brad.
Didn't want to lose her.
Didn't want to lose her. And I said, you know, I just calculated this. You're going to get 98% of your pay. And you have a 401k with $400,000 in it. And you got Social Security that's going to pay.
98%. You're just basically working for 2%.
Yeah.
You could be sitting at home enjoying yourself.
That's what I told her. And she's like,
Less.
I'm out. And the commissioner just came out and let me up. But I was happily willing to do that.
Unless you're one of the young teachers, you only get 1.5% each year.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, that's true.
In some cases, being older is better.
But the thing that I was so happy to see her do was that $400,000 allowed her to pay off some debt, and then all she had to do was worry about taking care of her grandkids and having fun there. Because the sad thing was had another gentleman that was in Castledale, and he had retired after 52 years of service for the county. 6 months later, he passed away on the golf course. He wanted to get to that 100% plus for his retirement benefit, and he only enjoyed it for 6 months. So that's why saving for retirement is so important, so you can enjoy, those times with your family. Talking about Gen Z, saving for retirement, they're going to be a force in investing. We saw that last year with all the Reddit thing going on and the GameStop stuff. Yeah, he made an appearance again 2 days ago, or Friday, I mean.
Yeah, he made an appearance a couple weeks ago and made the stock fly up again. On Friday, he did a good job of causing it to crash.
Yeah, he did a very good job of causing it to crash.
He wasn't doing there briefly.
It was fleeting, yeah. It was, but based on if you save for retirement, you could become, Gen Z could become one of the richest generations that we've seen. Unfortunately, they won't own houses, but they will have a huge retirement account. So, just looking at, come on. Helping your money grow. This is when I will call out 2 kids. And since I have 2 of my associates here that work for me, I'm going to call them out and make them really work for me. So, Elise, I'm starting you at age 25. I'm going to give you $5,000 a year for 40 years. And I'm going to put it into a traditional 401k for you. You happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
How much money am I putting away for you?
$5,000 a year.
For 40 years? 200,000? Okay. Now, Ashley will start at 35 because, she wanted to go out and hang out in Costa Rica and do all that stuff down there with the surfing. Going to start her at 35 and give her $5,000 a year, but it'll go into a Roth account. So I'm only going to give her $150,000. Time value of money is what we're looking at here, folks. And it comes down to, Elise, you're going to have $1,068,000, but traditional 401k. You're going to pull that out and going to go live in Costa Rica because you stole Ashley's house from her. But you're going to pay roughly 40% in taxes if you live in Utah. So you're going to walk out with about $600,000. Now Ashley, she only worked 30 years. She has $505,000, but it's all tax-free. She's still $100,000 behind what Elise did, but she doesn't have to pay taxes on it. She could take the $505,000, go back and steal the house back from Elise down in Costa Rica, and everything would be fine there. But the biggest thing I like to show the kids is the younger you are, the better off you're going to be. And it used to be that this was a little different in that I would show the scenario. I would start the kid at 20. I would pay them for 10 years, and then they would quit. And so I'd put $50,000 away into a retirement account. That would generate about $885,000. The kid that started at age 30 and contributed to age 60 would have about $600,000. And I would use the Roth versus traditional example. Roth being tax-free, traditional being you have to pay taxes on it when it comes out. You're hearing that probably a lot in the news right now, that now's a good time to convert to your Roth IRA if you have the chance. It's actually not a bad idea. You should talk to your retirement guy about it, or gal, because The less you have to pay taxes later in life, the better off you're going to be. I'll just tell you that right now. You do have to pay for it now. And it does. It does.
You've already paid it.
If you've already paid it?
It's already come out.
What do you mean?
I mean, if you invest in a Roth IRA, you've already made the payment.
Right.
You've already paid that tax.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
So there's no pain.
Yeah, there's no pain if you convert now, though.
Convert, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's actually a way that you can get around that.
There are tricks of doing it. Yeah. There are some loopholes. We'll talk.
Yeah, tell the rest of us.
So, almost an endless range. I've talked a little bit about it. You've got mutual funds, crypto, cash. I don't talk about NFTs anymore. They were, flash in the pan. Bonds, stocks, real estate.
Still great technology.
Oh, it is.
If they leverage it right.
If they do it right. That's the challenge. So let's look at, jump into stocks. Ownership of a company. Mutual funds, they go out and buy those stocks. And it's pooled with other investors. So it'd be like, and I love to do this with the kids. I say, okay, if you were trusting someone in this classroom with your money, who would it be? And they just were like, nobody? And then sometimes I go, you? Like, no, I'm not an option here. And it's just a lot of fun to see who they think is the smart one. I'll be honest with you, I was at Skyline teaching the AP up there, and one of the kids had just created an algorithm for the stock market game. And he won for the state. And he was not able to accept the award. His partner in crime, and it was funny because he was the wrestling captain, he goes, I'm smart too, when he was giving the speech. I came up with ideas, but his algorithm really is great. And that's why he's at Harvard right now having his interview for getting into the program. And I was just like, wow, he wrote an algorithm and won. This is amazing. But that's the kind of kids that would be, yeah, we'll trust him with our money. So mutual funds, you're trusting somebody to manage your portfolio. Peter Lynch is my favorite manager. Besides, there's one, her name is Catherine Collins. I don't know if my associates know who it was, but she used to manage our mid-cap stock fund. She was 5'3". She looked giant compared to Ashley and the others back. But she's 5'3", and she goes, my favorite research I did was going out to a farm in Iowa, and they gave me these hip waders boots, and I dove into the pig pen and got to feed the pigs and got to talk to the people that work for the company. I said, that was your favorite? She goes, that was my favorite. I didn't have to worry about dressing up right, didn't have to worry about saying the right thing. I just went out there and had fun with the employees and got to feed pigs. And that's the kind of research she did, was she went out and met with the employees and the frontline management to get a real feel for what the company was on top of what she would look at in the books. And that's a sign of a great manager. You hear the difference between active managed and index funds. Anybody know what the index fund is? Basically mirrors the index. So S&P 500, you're going to have all 500 companies. Russell 2000, you're going to have the 2000. Total market, so on and so forth. They're going to do what the index does. Active managed, you're paying somebody to beat that index. And there's some very good managers out there that'll do that. There's also exchange traded funds. Kind of like a mutual fund, but they're priced every second as the day goes on. They're just continually being bought and sold. Mutual funds are priced once a day. ETFs, exchange traded funds, are priced every second it's sold. People like those because they can get in and out of the market very quickly. We had a flash crash back in the day. People were in the Index 500 fund, mutual fund, and they had to write it down all day because of that crash. The next day it went back up a little bit, but if you're an ETF, you could sell it at the beginning of the crash and you didn't lose that 4% throughout the day. Or the mutual fund, they just kept watching and crying some more. That's what happens with the mutual funds. Stocks we talked about, Disney, NVIDIA. I mean, it's crazy. Has anybody seen what NVIDIA has done over the last 9 months? That's nuts. Seriously, that's nuts. That's all I have to say. And they just went through their 10-for-1 stock split the other day. 10 for 1. They were priced at $11.20 on Friday. And you came in and you're at 112 on Monday, but you had, instead of 10 shares, you had 100 shares. So it was it's interesting because the last time we saw a split like this was Apple, of the size of company as NVIDIA. That was in 2020.
When did Amazon split?
Oh, it's
They split a couple of times.
yeah.
But Apple split before that too.
The reason for the comparison to Apple was the analysts are saying it's a tech company, everybody expects it to go up, which Apple did, and then it had 28% drop for the next 3 or 4 months. It dropped. There's no guarantee that's going to happen this time, but they say be wary because a lot of people will think they're going to get this big windfall by buying 5 shares on Friday and sell them all on Tuesday thinking they're going to make a ton of money, and that's not the case. So, crypto, I'm kind of handcuffed here. So I'm going to tell my employees to just plug your ears. It's a very risky investment. It can pay off. It can't pay off. It just depends. We've seen the fraud. You've seen the people going to jail. We've also seen people make money off of it. So it just depends. You have to do your research on the crypto to make it work. So be very careful when it comes to that. Don't go after the latest and greatest. There's reasons for quality in various types of crypto. And there's also reasons why they should be investigated. We'll just leave it at that. This is my favorite. Start with a plan. I used to lead a team of what's called stock plan services. And we'd help a lot of the baristas at Starbucks or new hires at various companies across the country. And their favorite question when they'd call in when their stocks would mature, can I get my beer money? And we're like, really? And I was training my associates to engage the client around, let's look long-term on this. Ask them about their goals. What do they want to do? Find that one thing that's important to them and help them, besides their beer money, help them achieve that goal. And so we would start a plan. The next thing is be a super saver. If you think $20 is a lot, go to $22.50. See how that goes for a month. Go to $25 the next month. Try to put as much away as you can, and then buy what you know. How many of you remember, some of you will, Legs pantyhose? They used to come in this little egg, plastic egg. My brother and I would use that as a football in the front room. And
For a lot of things.
yeah, they were. But the funny thing was Peter Lynch, who managed the Magellan Fund all through the 80s, was one of the best fund managers ever. He came home one day and he saw his wife had 3 of these eggs on her dresser. And he's like, what's that? And she goes, oh, they can't keep them in stock at the store. They're called Legs pantyhose. It's a cost-effective way of getting pantyhose. And yeah, and he's like, that's interesting. So what does he do? He goes down to the local store, talks to the owner of the store. Hey, tell me about these Legs pantyhose. I'm curious. And he goes, I can't keep them in stock. They can't send me enough. They're flying off the shelf. I'm going to call the company up. Calls up the company. Tell me more. How can you keep them so cheap? Tell me about your supply chain, blah, blah, blah. And he went off and he bought a big stake in it, and it paid off immensely. And he actually wrote a book that's called Know What You Own and Why You Own It. And that's what I tell the kids when they're in the stock market challenge. Buy stuff you know. Don't just go out there and say, oh, I'm going to buy this biotech company that they didn't know was being investigated at the time. And I was laughing at that one. I said, have you really dove into that stock? Well, we think it's the prices. I'm like going, take a look at the news, see what it says. And they're like, oh my gosh. So again, knowing what you own and why you own it is a big, big plus. Do your own research. Yeah.
I do a stock market competition in my class, and buy what you know concerns me a little bit because the kid that blew the rest of my students away, perfect timing, but he bought Canopy Growth.
Okay.
That just blew everyone away by double. Yeah.
I think one of the funniest stories at the luncheon, they have a lunch that recognizes the fall winners and the spring winners. And they have the grade school, the intermediate, or the middle schools, and the high schools. The grade schooler gets up there in the fall of 2020. Oh no, fall of 2016. Wow, I've been doing this a while. He says, yeah, we bought U.S. Steel because Trump's going to win and he's going to build a wall. And that's what they said. And he goes, and luckily for us, the contest ended the day before because U.S. Steel has gone down every day since. So we just want to thank U.S. Steel for at least letting us get to this point. The stories from the kids are some of the most entertaining you'll hear all year long, especially the grade schoolers. Diversify the investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Now that doesn't mean don't put all your eggs in one company as far as how you invest. You're going to see a lot of the investment companies like Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, other places have multiple FDIC relationships with various banks, so you can get more than your basic FDIC insurance at one bank. You can get that spread out amongst a bunch of different banks. And they also segregate all your accounts so that your money isn't tied to Ashley's or mine or anybody else's. Each brokerage firm has to treat your account as a separate entity, so they can't be doing stuff without your knowledge. And so you're protected that way. And then my favorite is keep your cool. Seriously. I think Sandra was sharing a story with me about someone who sold out in the middle of COVID when it was down at, was it COVID that you had the story? And they said, I know I'm making a mistake, but they sold out, and then the market just took off. And they missed out. It's just a matter of stay diversified, keep your cool. I think one of my favorite stories was I helped a lady one time that called in 1999, I guess I'm that old, and she said, I'd like to put 50% into the emerging growth fund and 50% into the aggressive growth fund. And our trader said, who gave you this idea? Well, my son-in-law. I think you should talk to somebody. Okay. So she got her, the trader got her over to me. And I started talking to her in more detail. I said, so we're looking at $750,000, and you want to put 50% each into two of our most aggressive funds. Yes. And your son-in-law told you to do this. Yes. Does he love you? I think so. I said, I'm going to challenge that right now because we are at all-time highs in the market, and I'd just be concerned about putting everything into that investment right now. And so she goes, well, what would you do? So we created a portfolio for her. Had bonds, large cap, small cap. We did the whole diversification thing. What happened in 2000? Y2K dot-com bubble burst, and the NASDAQ took a huge hit. Those two funds dropped approximately 42% in 2000. I was joking with her. I said, we could put 2.5% into each one, just so you can tell your son-in-law that you've listened to him a little bit. And she was, okay, fine. I went to talk to her in May of that year, and she had sold out of those two funds already. She's like, I got rid of them. So we talked again at Thanksgiving, because that was our annual conversation, was the Friday after Thanksgiving. I said, so how's Thanksgiving? Oh, you should have seen him squirming. It was so great. He thought I was 50-50 into those two funds. And I said, and? She goes, those bonds are really helping me out right now. This is great. She was actually up 6% that year. And then she only lost a little bit the next year. But I think the best one was the last conversation I had with her. She goes, so just curious, are you married? I said, well, yeah. I've got a brother who's not, you know. She goes, well, my daughter is looking for a guy. And I'm like, not the son-in-law that, no, not that. But, you know, it's conversations, relations like that is what helps us do what we do. We want to help you be successful. And just like you want to help your students be successful. By understanding how to do this is a big plus. Now, at the end of the conversation, we have these slides around the youth app. Again, we have the different lessons you can jump into. And then you take a tour. You can do all kinds of stuff in here that will help you get your $50 to go to Subway or invest or whatever you want to do. And it's really, you can start with just $1 if you want. There's no, you can set up direct deposit. I know my daughter did that when she was working at Swig. She just had everything dumped right into this account for her. and she didn't have to worry about it. You know,
I want to.
yeah, I don't do that one. So the biggest plus is developing skills. You know that as well as anybody. Is helping them develop financial literacy skills. The parental oversight. We've all got stories that have worked at Fidelity of when the parents have blown up the kids' accounts and then the kids come and ask where the money is. May not be the best thing in the world, but the kids are learning those skill sets. And it's a big plus. Managing money is going to be huge for these guys. And we at Fidelity, if you want any of us to come into your classroom and just, I'll be honest with you, I do a lot more around the stock market when I have the 2 hours or hour and a half with the kids to really dive in. And I throw charts up there, we show earnings analysis, we do all kinds of stuff when we get into the classroom with the kids so they have a better feel of what they're buying and why they're buying it. So do you have any questions? Have I put you to sleep yet? Hopefully, you know, we're here to help you. Please feel free to reach out at any time. More than happy to come into the classroom. And thank you for your time and dedicating this day off in the middle of the summer to doing this. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.